Okay, should I start?
Dude, our way.
All right, welcome listeners to the first episode of the. We haven't come up with a name for the podcast. What do we? I mean, I was thinking we could do that after the fact. On the way here, I was thinking like Cord Talk, but that's like kind of lame.
Yeah, I feel like anything punny just won't age well. It's got and any fucking between the lines.
Yeah,
it has already been taken.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like it's got to be simple. P Shoddy and K Dot or something like that.
Yeah, we can do that. Okay, so we'll come back to the name of the podcast later. But for those of you who are found my voice familiar, you might recognize me from the host of Takes from the 408, which is a podcast that I had 2 years ago. Unfortunately, we had to shut that podcast down because my friends just ruined it by getting girlfriends, and they didn't have any time to they didn't have any time to contribute. But honestly, that wasn't the problem because K-Dog has a girlfriend, but it's really more just the love of the game. I didn't sense that in my co-hosts, and that was really what prompted me to look for other co-hosts. And
you're welcome.
Yeah. No, thanks for being the hero we all needed and deserved.
And we got another co-host coming in.
We got another co-host who's fueling up. He's
a dark horse here.
He's a dark horse here. We back on our regular meetings on Thursday, we were unsure if he was going to be extended an invite because all three of us have similar, opinions in this space. But unfortunately, he lives here, so
But I think what'll be interesting is when even though we have similar backgrounds, similar upbringings, when we have different opinions, that's going to be when it gets crazy because it's going to get violent.
For sure. So I think, we can start off maybe by doing some intros. I'm P Shoddy. How do we get here?
It's your birthday.
We'll play that in the background. How do we get here? So really, it got to a point where we just realized there's no good tennis content, and I think we've all K-Dog, P Shoddy, and Shiver. Yes.
I mean, look, guys, Cliff Drysdale is not going to cut it. Let's just put it that way. I mean, Cliff Drysdale, you got John McEnroe, who's going senile at this point. These are just guys who are not going to cut it for us. We want some real content from real people.
So I think that's really what started it. And it got to a point where during our Indian Wells trips, we were having great discussions with a lot of our friends. And so it really got to the point where I was like, all right, let's just put a microphone and see what happens, because we really enjoy it. We're all very passionate about tennis, and we're passionate about the game in general. And so we thought it'd be a great idea to just put a microphone and see what happens. But for those who don't know me or who didn't recognize or haven't listened to Takes from the 4, I'm P Shoddy. What's a fun fact? Maybe let's say I'll say from a tennis standpoint, favorite play, backhand cross court. That's just
cross court. That's an interesting. That's money. Your favorite play.
I think I realized that shot's straight butter for me. I can hit that in my I can feed a family on that one.
Really?
That's easy for me.
Interesting.
So that's a fun little tidbit to start off with the intro.
You should have prepped me up with the fun fact. I don't have anything, but
we can cover that later. But that's a quick little intro about me. I've been playing the game for a while. Starting to get more into the podcast space. So I'll pass it over to K-Dog on this one.
Yeah, intro's the hardest part. I think, so my buddy sent me a video yesterday of Dom Mazzetti, i.e. Mike Tornabene, from the early days. And I think
I don't think I understood the words that just came out of your mouth. Well,
Dom Mazzetti.
Who's that?
Bro. Bro science, dude.
I think I know.
Dude, you have a lot of homework.
Okay.
You have a lot of homework.
Okay. I'm just a guy trying to have a good time. Well, shit.
The viewers are going to know who Dom Mazzetti is. Okay. There's definitely a large tennis population that's intersecting with the lifting world.
Really?
I think they will know who I'm talking about here.
Especially the demographic who we're going after, yeah.
And this video is something to the effect of the day that you start lifting is the day that you're forever small.
Okay.
And I think that's my personality, basically. Ex-tennis player turned, I would say, wannabe bodybuilder. I think that sums it up, right? I mean, yeah, Trevor. We're going to cut out the name part right there. It can't be thrown at people.
Yeah, it can't be incriminating here.
Played at Carnegie Mellon. Absolutely a miserable time, but that's all good. Still love the game. I will watch any highlight that you feed me, including D3 men's tennis. That's about it.
Awesome. Well, yeah. I mean, maybe a quick little background on how we all know each other. We trained at a local academy, and since 13 onwards, and pretty much we met there, and then became friends from there onwards because we were seeing each other almost every day and just absolutely back fence grinding.
Not because of our personality.
Yeah, not because of
we were grinding.
Yeah, we were just grinding, and so I think we were drawn to that aspect. It also helped that we had a lot of mutual friends, and there was a strong allegiance between our high schools. Not necessarily on the court because we got whooped every single time, but that's what fostered the friendship at least. And fast forward 10 years, we all have a lot of mutual friends, and we've stayed in touch over the years. And
Banana Bowl.
Yeah.
For the true fans.
For the true fans who will recognize. But yeah, we've got a lot of things to talk about today. I think probably want to set the stage, but it's just a very interesting time in tennis, right? Federer's retired. Rafa, with his recent news of next year probably being his last year, which we'll get into a little bit more on the pod. But the area of the big three, or big four, if you want to call it, is kind of dwindling down. And there's a lot of new up-and-coming players who are pushing the mantle and making big pushes in tennis. And so we kind of wanted to set the stage off by just talking about, the clay court season. Right now we're here at the end of Rome finals. And so there's a lot, I mean, the clay court season's pretty much over with minus the French Open. And so we wanted to start off there maybe by covering the clay court season and how you think it's gone. I mean, no, Rafa didn't play the entire time. So it was very wide open for a lot of different players, but today Medvedev won, which we were talking a little earlier, like for all the talk about his game being, and him saying like, I'm a hard court specialist, like his game is almost built for clay. He's got a massive serve. He's very patient from the back, and he's really just an all-court player who has no weaknesses and is very mentally tough. And that game bodes very, very well for clay. So maybe we'll start there with his win over Holger today.
Yeah, I would just add that, look, Medvedev, he's super critical of himself. He's laughing at every word that comes out of my mouth because I just can't say anything that's not offensive in some way. But look, he's super self-critical, and whenever he goes into an interview, he is going to sell himself really short and sandbag. As P's saying, I think he is a very good clay courter. I do think the reason why he doesn't think of himself as a traditional clay courter in the modern game is because he hits extremely flat. And, I think we were just talking about this too, but I actually think if he can work a little bit on the offense, a little bit on the transition game, and learn how to move on grass, he's going to be nasty on grass as well because his ball doesn't bounce. So yeah, I think Med's dangerous going into the French. Holger, obviously, really great results, but I'll also just say what I wanted to say a little bit more gentler than when I said it this morning. But I will say he's extremely talented, great player. I would not judge a person who's 19 and he's a pro tennis player. I would be a mega douche if I were in that situation. And I'm sure his mom's a nice lady as well, but he's just spending too much time with his mom. That's like my take.
Interesting. Have you seen him? Well, I guess his mom's in his coaching box in every single
She's got to let him go, dude. Yeah. She's got to let him blossom into a young man. I mean, he's 19. He needs to start living his life. I'm sure she's a great coach too, and she has a lot of good information. But I think you see it in the way he acts on court. He's just like the epitome of just only child. We watched him play it against Stan in Indian Wells, and this dude is he's an interesting character for sure.
He's definitely picked it up since then because from that Indian Wells match where Stan is as good as Stan has been over the years. Like he's entering the twilight stage of his career, and it was pretty obvious. Like Stan couldn't move. This was a very winnable match for Holger, and he just wasn't able to stay mentally tough and stay locked in, right? Like there was a game plan that was pretty crystal clear working for like the second set and the third set, and he just got away from that in the closing moments. So I think, I mean, that's what part of what you're saying. In like 19-year-old, like he needs to be like a little bit more mature.
And it'll come. It'll
Yeah.
come. This is just my kind of semi, comedic take on it. Is like I think he's just a little bit crowded by his team, and
Yeah.
I think he needs to just grow up to be a man. And he's
Yeah.
still a bit of a kid. So he's going to be up and down. But again, super talented. I think he has a great chance at making, I would probably, haven't obviously draw's not out yet, but I would probably put him as an easy semifinal pick.
Yeah, I mean, if there's pretty much like his past losses have been to who, like Rublev in Monte Carlo, where he was up a break, and
Another guy we got to talk about in
Yeah.
terms of just shocking clay court results.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, for how angry and like volatile he seems to be, like he's really reined it in. And like we've seen, again, we saw it in Indian Wells. He was complaining at every single point. And Monte Carlo down in third set, and he was like, yeah, like F it, I'm just gonna go for my shots. I'm gonna be like calm, but like I can live with the loss if I lose with like while trying my hardest. But if I don't try as hard as I can, like I'll never forgive myself. And that's like a better place to be, I think.
And he's another guy who traditionally you don't think of him as a clay courter.
Oh, for sure.
But
Because he's beating the shit out of the ball every single point. Yeah.
And he hits, he hits through the court. His backhand's a little bit of a liability, which usually would get exposed on a surface like that. But what's interesting is that clay just gives him more time to wind up. he just ends up like ripping even harder on clay. So, obviously a good mover too. I think that's part of it. And he's just like putting it all together, which is awesome to see. He's definitely one of my favorite players.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't think anyone picked him to win Monte Carlo, but I mean, that's a big time result for him.
Yeah.
So it bodes very well for the French Open rather.
And if you look again, Holger's clay court season, Rublev's clay court season, probably the two best clay court seasons,
definitely.
undoubtedly, right? I mean, Rublev pretty much only lost to Lajovic, who beat Djokovic in the 250, right, or the 500.
Yeah, he's playing really
in Serbia. And he ended up winning the doubles catch in the tournament that he lost,
which is not easy. You still have to play tennis to like do that.
hard. So, dude's firing up. All right, we got our third
listeners
coming in.
We got our third listener who's finished his dinner after a grueling match.
Oh, grueling. Yeah, it was tough.
Sure, maybe you want to give the people a little intro?
Yeah, my name's Shiver, guys. Shiver Me Timber is what they call me. I'm known for my backhand and not my forehand. But I'm a lover of the game. So excited to be here.
Lover of the game, except for on occasion when he skips tennis on Thursday to like work out. I mean, just had to call him out for that. He said he would be here on Thursday, and then radio silence and didn't show up. So that's true. That was unfortunate, but it worked out. It worked out because we had 4 people. So all good.
That's true.
Cool. I guess I guess we've just jumped in, but to talking about like key players in the clay court season. But you want to. Anyone you got your eye on?
I think I was listening to the conversation during dinner, and I think one crazy story in tennis right now is Djokovic.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I mean, I feel he was robbed of probably 2 Grand Slams last year due to COVID. What was it? Vaccine bullshit. And now he's like struggling to find his form, but he's a guy who's, I mean, I always hated Djokovic growing up because he was, the antagonist of Nadal, Fed, but grown to like him a lot, and I'm definitely pulling for him this French Open.
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy who, like, no matter what the situation is, you can't rule him out. Yeah, you can't rule him out. Like,
especially 3 out of 5 sets. So
yeah,
it's gonna be interesting. I think this French Open, a lot of dark horses, a lot of surprises in store.
And another thing on Joker is just like the injury stuff, right? That's going on behind the scenes that we don't really know about. Maybe an elbow issue going on. It sounds like, I mean, Prakash is calling him out for hitting the gym. That's what it sounds like. He's definitely put on some pounds of muscle.
Which never hurts.
Which absolutely, maybe it does that. Maybe it does. But it is worth it. We'll see what happens. I think, Djokovic is a good call. I can't believe his name hasn't come up yet.
Yeah.
Obviously the GOAT, I think. Dangerous on clay, great mover, all court game. But, I mean, that doesn't even do it justice. So
I mean, I guess, like, are we concerned about the fact that, should he be concerned about the fact that he, like, lost to Holger? I mean, I don't, what
It was
They
a three.
lost to the Serbian dude as well.
Lajovic. Talking about
Lajovic.
that was an interesting loss. I also will say the caveat there is Djokovic, I've noticed, feels a lot of pressure when he's playing at home.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
For whatever reason, he has had trouble winning that tournament.
Yeah.
It's a 250. He should bag it every time, but it's tough when you're in front of your
home crowd, and, like, I mean, Serbian's like he's a god there almost.
He's
so
literally.
yeah, and then Monte Carlo losing to Musetti, which, I mean, Musetti is a very interesting.
I have strong opinions about Musetti.
Yeah, I do too. I'm not sure what to make of his game. I think, like, he's a very streaky player, and I don't know how, if, like, people say he's gonna be great and he's, like, a really good next gen player, but
He's like Felix. He's like just streaky. Like, I think he could have a high ceiling, but
yeah.
it's debatable.
To me, the crux of the problem really is just the one-handed backhand. Like that, it looks beautiful for sure.
Don't teach your kids one hand.
That's exactly what I was saying. Like, I understand Federer won, but I think he had a one-hand backhand, but I think he won in spite of his one-hand backhand, not because of his backhand. Like,
100%.
Causality is tough to prove in any direction.
Yeah.
I think Federer developed a bigger forehand because he had a weak one-handed backhand.
For sure.
And he also developed a really good slice
Yes.
because of his one.
Yeah, I was gonna
So
say
it's
that-
like
yeah.
tough to determine. If he had a two-hander, would he be better? I don't think so.
yeah, no, it's very hard to determine that. But
I do want to say a couple of things about the players that have been mentioned because I have strong opinions about both of them.
Yeah.
Musetti, look, I mean, just to say it as it is, right? He's a talented dude, but I lost a lot of respect for him after he won the first two sets against Joker in the Open, 6-6, and then basically was on his way to getting triple bageled.
Yeah.
It was like 6-1, 6-0, 4-0 or something like that, and then he retired at 4-0 in the fifth. I was just like you got to play the last two games of the fifth set in the U.S. Open. I mean, come on.
It's also just I think it's just also a bad mentality to be like, look, I'm 4-0, I'm going to lose this match.
No, dude, it
like,
sends a signal to everyone else.
Yeah, at the end of the day, like, regardless of what the score, like, I understand he lost the last two sets, but you're a professional tennis player. Djokovic goes through lapses too. Like, you can come back from a four. Like, we've all been up and lost. We've all been down and won. Like, you
That's
just have
the
to.
crazy thing about tennis is that you got to win the last point.
Yeah, there's no shot clock on on the sport, so you have to win. You have to win the last point.
Okay, one more thing, Felix.
Yeah.
I like the analogy, but I also think Musetti has a higher tennis IQ than Felix. Felix has all the tools.
Yeah.
Swiss Army knife.
The athleticism is off the charts.
Athleticism off the chart, just has everything. But the guy hits the same exact ball every single time, 6 feet over the net, heavy spin. It's just like, bro, you got to throw in like something different, some different look.
Which honestly, like, the ball itself, it's a great rally
It is a
ball
great
and
ball.
it's a great aggressive ball, but you can't just sit back and they're going to get used to the pace. I actually think a great next step would just be coming in more.
In.
That putting the pressure, because anyone can stand from like 10 feet beyond the baseline and just like hit the ball cross court or down the line or whatever, right? When they have time.
Flattening it out and
Yeah.
just adding different elements to his game, right? He should be flattening out a few forehands. I think he should be chipping his backhand a little bit more. And as you said, coming into net, I think he's got the tools. Like, just let's put it all together.
Let's put it all together and see how it goes. T, did you reach the semifinals last year or a couple years before?
Yeah, he was having some good results, I think, late last year. And I think Tony Nadal is going to help him out a lot. I mean, that guy is, we saw what he did with Rafa.
with his nephew, Rafa, who's...
But of course, Rafa is like also, just super talented dude.
Yeah.
That maybe Felix isn't at that level.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I think Felix is still really young, and I think what we realize is like this idea of people, just because Federer, Djokovic, and Rafa all won Grand Slams and had ridiculous success at a super early stage, it's not the same for everyone else. Like, people can win majors. Like, you don't have to win your first major at 21. I almost think nowadays it's like actually harder to like do that, and so just why what Carlos is doing is absolutely impressive because the number of balls that he's had to hit at 19 or 18, he's probably hit like 100,000 more balls than anyone else right now, and that's why he's so good.
That's part of it for sure.
Yeah.
I think the dude is also just a raw talent. Movement. He's one of those guys who's come in and changed the game right away. Added the drop shot to the arsenal as a necessity to everyone's game. Like another guy, we probably should have mentioned earlier. Obviously, like in terms of title shot contenders, what do you guys think? I would put him as top. It's got to be between him and. I mean, I would probably put him as one.
Carlos is winning it.
Carlos, Holger. I
think I still, no matter, as long as this dude's in the draw, I have to go Novak. It's just, and I know I'm in the presence of one co-host who thinks Carlos is going to win 22 Grand Slams. 25. Oh, my bad. Okay.
No. I just said he's going to be the GOAT.
Oh, okay. Which means he has to win
23, right?
20. Well, yeah,
23,
sure,
yeah.
23 right now.
Yeah, we just got 22 more to go.
Yeah, we got to one down, 22 more to go. But yeah, I just think regardless of the clay court season, like how the clay court season's gone, like I think Novak he's still Novak. He's
for sure.
Yeah.
He's gonna win. When he's in the draw, he's there to win. He's mentally tough. He's done it He's done it so many times.
So this is a guy who should be certified GOAT by now, but has been robbed of slams. He's extra hungry. Yeah. I think we're seeing the injuries come up. I think that's just going to make him like a caged animal. He needs to close 23 and extend the lead maybe to 24 or 25. Yeah. So,
I mean, I think Nadal is out at this point. So I think he's going to put a lot of effort into this French and U.S. Open.
Yeah, and it's a conversation we've had, is like, even though the game is the age is extending, the drop is still pretty meteoric when it happens. So you gotta cash in when you can. I mean, any player is an injury away from forced retirement.
Definitely, especially with how physical tennis is nowadays, and the fact that these guys are playing it feels like Monte Carlo is literally or Madrid was literally just last week. And I mean, in the span of like a month and a half, Madrid, Monte Carlo, Rome, Barcelona,
I don't know how they do it.
It's almost impossible to that's why one of the things we were talking about at Indian Wells is it's almost more difficult to win Indian Wells and Miami back to back than it is to win a Grand Slam because you're playing better competition earlier. There's not that much rest time. The only difference is the best of 5.
And it's 10 matches.
Yes.
And it's in 2 different places. So the Sunshine Double is a hard one to claim.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, we've talked about a lot of different players. I guess maybe we can. The only thing we haven't talked about in the clay aspect of the player is maybe up and comers or guys who haven't had the light on them that much.
Dark horses.
Yeah, dark horses to do well in the French Open.
I think we got to call out Tsitsipas. He's a top 5 player, right? I have another guy I have strong feelings about. I mean, if you've watched his blog about finances, that should actually be on it should be illegal to be able to give advice to young people like that. I think he is. He looks at himself as a bit of a Socrates, but I don't know if he's quite at that level. Great player. Again, preface all of these strong opinions, but these are great players. I think his best surface is clay.
Right.
But the dude, again, he's physical, but I actually think he's very streaky despite his solid results. He gets a lot of ugly wins. He gets a lot of wins where he's shanking 20% of his backhands. So I absolutely don't think he is title contender quite yet. He's putting in the effort, but he's not there yet. I just wanted to mention him as a dark horse because, I mean, he's a perennial semifinalist. He's top 5, and he's one of the guys.
And he's reached the finals of Roland Garros. Like I actually like wanted to. I mean, this guy is not. I don't think he's gonna win a title, but he is like a dark horse that like you know the casuals won't know about. But Jan Lennart Struff has had an incredible like he had a really good clay court season, and I've always been a bit like I thought his upside is massive because. He's 6'5". He's got a massive serve, massive forehand. His backhand's like okay, but serve plus forehand, that's a deadly combo wherever you go. And I mean, in Madrid to like beat the players that he beat, it's not easy. So I really want to shout him out as like for having a great clay court season.
Game translates well to clay there because he's kind of a serve and volleyer, pretty aggressive.
I don't think he doesn't serve and volley as much. I feel like I think he's capable of finishing points at the net, but I think his game translates well to clay because at the end of the day he has that serve. Yeah. Like, it doesn't matter. You still have to break him. Like that serve is. I mean, like let's just take a look at the guys he beat in order to get to the finals. Right. Luca Nardi. I actually don't know much about Luca Nardi. I know he's like an up and coming Italian player, but Karatsev lost him in qualifiers. Got the lucky loser. Beat Sonego. Not easy to do on clay. Beat Ben Shelton, another up and comer who we think has a lot of potential. Beat Lajovic, who beat Djokovic. Pedro Cachin, all the South American Spanish guys, very tough to beat on clay. Beat Tsitsipas, beat Karatsev in the semifinal, and then lost to Alcaraz in 3 sets. I mean, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's 10 matches.
That's crazy.
In 1 week.
You know, the other thing I like about Jan Lennart Struff is that he's a bit older, right? He's 30 plus.
33.
Has a bunch of experience under his belt. These are the guys that are maximizing. They're not fucking around. They're there to play tennis and win. Yeah. He's weathered the storms previously in his career. Oh, yeah. He's been through it all. Definitely a dark horse. Definitely a dark horse. I mean, I would say easy 3rd, 4th round pick. Easy potential quarterfinal.
Definitely. I mean, even in Monte Carlo, beat Ruusuvuori, beat Ramos Vinolas, dusted De Minaur, which is not easy to do. That I mean, De Minaur is. Yep. I mean.
Tough to put away.
Yeah, for like all 3 of us back fence grinders here, someone we look up to is just a blue-collared player who's maximized his talent. Probably not going to win a Grand Slam, but he's made a very successful living on the Pro Tour. De Minaur beat Casper in the round of 16 and then lost to eventual champion Rublev. So
Casper the friendly ghost.
Yeah. It was another polarizing figure.
Another polarizing figure.
Worst top 4 players out there.
I mean, again, great dude. But you could just see it in his eyes. He's not a killer. He's been to a few slam finals. Great player. Huge forehand. Huge game. Not a killer.
Yeah. And
I think he might win a slam despite that because he's so talented. But with Joker in the draw, like you were saying, right, with Alcaraz, I just see them eating him alive in big matches.
Yeah, no, and I mean, best of 5, that's where you can't doubt your game. You can't doubt your mentality. You have to go in there and take care of business, and I think Casper still has something left to prove. So
I mean, just looking at him over this season, right, the guy, I remember there was one particular handshake at the end of a highlight reel where this dude looked like he hadn't slept for a week. I mean, he was tormented by something in that crazy losing streak he had. And you know, I'm glad he's come out of it, but again, I don't think that's enough confidence to enter the French Open and defend your points.
It's funny because like minor sidetrack. It's funny like we like obviously the professional life is glamorized for what I mean, being like famous and like you know being really good, making lots of money. I don't think it's an easy profession. I think it's a very, very challenging profession. I mean, you know, the Shiver and I were just talking about before our matches we were playing. Like, you know, a little jitteriness, little like for sure nervousness before playing. I mean, at this point, we really don't have like, there's nothing to gain, nothing to lose, right? But like, that's still the nature of the sport of like, you know, having those little pre-jitters. I mean, that's what they feel every
That's their job.
That's their job.
They're trying to put food on the table.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, and it's like, you have to become accustomed to losing because unless you're like one of the top 10 guys,
and even every week,
you're losing every single week,
right?
And so it's not
multiple times.
Yeah, it's not an easy lifestyle by by any means. It's very tough. Just one random side note that I was thinking about that I feel
any
like.
side note is welcome. Any side note. Another side note I will say is I'm looking at the rankings right now. I feel like we owe it to our viewers here
Oh, yes.
to actually go through every player at some point in a separate podcast.
Yeah.
There is so much we could say about all of these guys.
Yeah. We can maybe post Roland, RG when we've watched a lot of matches.
Yeah.
We can they can chime in.
Yeah, and just one more with the dark horse. I just want to call out the Americans. Right?
Oh, yeah.
We haven't mentioned any of these guys. Francis Tiafoe, absolute stud, baller. Definitely one of my favorite players. I think he has all the pieces. I mean, he very well could have won the U.S. Open last year, guys, right? I mean, he lost a catch in 5, and then, 2 5-setters following that catch was right there.
Alcaraz.
Catch lost, and then Alcaraz won in the finals.
Oh, yeah. No, sorry. I thought you were saying Tiafoe lost to Kachin.
Tiafoe was right there. So he's a big match player. Tommy Paul's best surface is clay. I don't think he has the weapons quite yet. The forehand's a bit of a liability. We saw it in Indian Wells, but another guy with a huge heart. I think he's got a great chance. Taylor Fritz, more of a hard quarter, but I mean, we've been saying it, right? These guys, something changes. If you learn how to move on the clay, the extra time actually gives big hitters more time to wind up. So Taylor Fritz is dangerous.
He had a good Monte Carlo. He beat good players. He beat Wawrinka, he beat Lehechka, Tsitsipas, and lost to Rublev. So I mean, that's a big time.
That's a good result.
That's a big time tournament for him. And he's at the end of the day, he's still so young. He's still only 25 years old. Like he's got a lot of time to build up. All right, so if you had to pick one American player, who do you think is going to go the furthest? I mean, we have to see the draw, sure, but like just
Roland Garros.
Yeah.
I mean, I got to put my money on Tiafoe.
Okay.
I'd probably say the same.
Okay.
I just think the dude he wants it so bad, and he's just a big match player, and that's what it takes to win matches in the biggest stages. I would say on a hard court, I would throw, someone like a Ben Shelton or a Korda, as well as like a dark horses. Yeah. But Ben's been looking a little shaky on the clay. He's another one of my favorite players. I think he's still young. He's having a bit of a slump, having to defend, the reputation you get after being a Grand Slam quarterfinalist, but he's going to put it together.
Yeah, and I'll back Taylor to go deep because I think Taylor's been playing really well. So I don't really have any deep analysis there. I just think Taylor's been playing really well, and I think he's still got all the weapons.
Yeah, he fear that forehand.
Yeah, he's got a sick backhand. His forehand is really good. He's got the serve, and he's a good mover for 6'5". So I'll back Taylor for to make the deepest run out of the Americans. Mackey, as clean as his game is, as good as he is, probably second round exit.
Yeah, weapons wise, he's not a 6'3" dude. I mean,
he's
not
5'10".
Guys away, he has to grind.
Yeah, he's 5'10". He's maximized the most with his talent and his ability, which is awesome. But yeah, I think it's going to be really tough for Mackey. Are there any other Americans we're leaving out?
Yeah, we're leaving out actually quite a few. Marcos Giron, again, a guy whose best surface is clay. I don't think he really has much of a chance. Obviously, he's a great player, but against the big guys, his forehand's another bit of a liability. JJ Wolf, nasty on the hard courts.
Big time American
player. Don't know if he has the clay court game yet. Nakashima, Cressy. There are a lot of Americans in the top 100 right now. And another guy who's up and coming, we just watched the highlights this morning. Eubanks. He's just a baller, dude. I mean, dude has a huge game. He can just put people away with the 1-2. So
yeah,
never know.
Cool. I think we've covered a lot of players. We talked a lot about Roland Garros. Stay tuned for our next week's episode on French Open draw previews. Once the draws come out, we'll come to you with some analysis of how the draw breaks down and some players, and we'll have more solid. We'll have more solid opinions and analysis. I like to do a draw before every big tournament, and there's some good players that I identify, so I'm quite happy. So if you bet on DraftKings or FanDuel, definitely follow me. All right, I think we can close it out probably with one last one last section on the on Rafa. He announced earlier this week that he's going to be taking some time off for the rest of the year, not even practicing. And that next year will probably be his last full season on the Pro Tour. Again, I mean, all three of us are back fence grinders, and you have a guy like that who's like, it almost feels like the worst thing for him is just not giving max effort every single point, right? Like, it doesn't matter where he is, how hard, like how much pain he's in, he's just gonna grind and compete for every single point, which is honestly probably why he's got to the position he is, because there's so many matches where he could have quit, i.e. like against Taylor and Wimbledon, and he played through it. So his body is, I don't think his body can take it any longer, and he's clearly had some problems with the foot and abdomen, and it's gone everywhere. I mean, every joint, the scar tissue is probably exceedingly painful at this point, but I mean, it looks so bad that he can't even practice right now without it. That's saying a lot. I mean, that's extremely, obviously it shows how, like, he takes his practices ridiculously seriously. And so, you know, that's, if he can't perform at his standard, like that's saying a lot. So, maybe one time in there.
Yeah. The guy had his nerve endings in his foot snipped off. Yeah. So it's essentially like he's playing on peg legs, and he won a Grand Slam playing like that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, his pain tolerance is ridiculously high, but I mean, it's going to be tough. Like, he's getting older, and a man can only do so much.
For sure. And to want it as badly as he still does. I mean, Mallorca is an absolutely beautiful place. I mean, for him to live in Mallorca, train in Mallorca, and the water is blue there, my friend. The water is very blue.
Like Santa Cruz.
Yeah, the water is blue there. For him to still want to play that badly and still compete shows why he's as successful as he is, the competitor he is. But yeah, it's unfortunately time it's looking like. But hopefully he can win one more Grand Slam.
Yeah, I would love that. Yeah, I mean, look, I'll be writing a full tribute at some point. This guy was an inspiration to me. Yeah. He was one of those guys like Kobe, right? I mean, you just look at them and they're like the epitome of, you know, class professionalism, doing things the right way, working hard, that I think, you know, all kids should look up to. It's a shame that everyone ends up losing to Father Time, but you know, I think, like I was saying earlier, I think the guy he is ready for a well-deserved retirement. He should start fishing, playing with I think he's got a kid.
He's got a kid, right? It's baby Rafa. Yes,
Rafael Jr. Spent time with the wife, who's just put up with just grinding for the last 15, 20 years, maybe 30 at this point.
Her patience.
But I think she wants her own life, and she's just like, yeah, I'm gonna let him do his thing because he loves the game, and that's awesome. You
can't get between Rafa and Dennis Fall.
Yeah, for sure. No, for sure.
Just a dog chasing a ball.
Yeah. And I mean, if you guys can't tell, all three of us have, you know, pure arrows. So, you know, the Babylon runs deep. Yeah. The Rafa brand runs deep within this trio. So you can catch us all the way from the back of the baseline.
I'll say one more thing about Nadal. I feel like, you know, he really changed the game in terms of, do you see this, if you look back at the history of tennis, you see these generational shifts in the game where it's a war between offense and defense. You know, Federer establishing offense, Nadal kind of showing that defense can still work at a high level, and then, you know, Djokovic kind of combining the two, but he just laid it all on the line. And it's super inspirational to see.
Awesome. Anything else, guys, before we wrap up?
That was a lot of ground.
A lot of ground. Obviously, if we're releasing this episode to you, you know us, and so feel free to provide feedback on things you liked, didn't like.
You just censor out all the shit that I said.
Yeah, and yeah, yeah. We will definitely have to do that. Good call to going anonymized, fake names. So, but yeah, this is just giving you guys a little preview of like the conversations we've been having over the past, 15 years basically. Like, so we're all super huge fans of the game, and so we felt our opinions had to be heard, but. Tune in for another episode next weekend where we cover the French Open previews. But till then, call those lines in, baby. See ya.
Peace.